Welcome back to Introduction to Climate Change Science. This is part 5. This is a curricular project that I created to fulfill the requirements of a workshop at Yale University through their program of International Educational Resources. And this year it was on global climate change and food security. And this presentation is going to form part of the Introduction to Global Studies course that I teach here at Albertus Magnus College. We left off looking at this chart showing from right to left, from the distant past, 550 to 600 million years ago, through the present, demonstrating that climate change has always been with us, but generally with long periods of stability. And what looks like change on this chart, which covers an immense period of time, if we lived during these periods, even here with this sharp one, it would seem not abrupt, but very slow because of the immensity of the durations of time. Climate science. Is climate science new? Well, climate science actually began around 1820. And I think it's possible that you are not able to read carefully or clearly everything on this chart, which I wanted to get in its entirety to show you that the climate science is closing in on 200 years old. So it's not something that just occurred recently. And here are some of the milestones. But first of all, what are some of the primary questions of climate science? They concern the rate of climate change, the sources of climate change, and the impacts on people of climate change. So climate science again is not new. It arose in 1820, about 40 years into the Industrial Revolution. Note here that instrumental temperature records begin around 1850, and this shows the rate of average heat, average temperature. And this one here shows temperature rise from about 1960 to the present. This name is Fourier, referring to Joseph Fourier, who in 1824 found that the atmosphere of the Earth kept the planet warmer than it would be in space, and he calculated the warming effect. He suspected that human activities could influence the climate. Later, John Tyndall in 1864 advanced upon Fourier's hypothesis and found that water vapor and hydrocarbons like methane and carbon dioxide strongly block the infrared radiation of the Earth and therefore trap heat in and below the atmosphere. In 1896, Svante Arrhenius, a Swedish scientist, calculated that a doubling of CO2 in the atmosphere would raise surface temperatures on Earth by 5 to 6 degrees Celsius. By the way, 1 degree Celsius is approximately 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit. He also calculated that cutting the atmospheric CO2 in half would produce another ice age. Big milestone came in 1960 when Charles Keeling actually measured the CO2 in the atmosphere, and he confirmed that its concentration was increasing. This discovery occurred at the time that CO2, carbon dioxide, was being understood as a greenhouse gas, which contributed to the warming of the Earth's surface. In the 1970s, scientists increasingly were predicting a warming of the Earth. Another period from 1980 to 1988, a consensus began to form that climate warming and CO2 concentrations had varied in direct proportion to each other in past ice ages, and that greenhouse gases and aerosols in the current period were contributing to the warming of the planet. In 1988 to the present, the World Meteorological Organization, or WMO, was formed. It is a scientific agency of the United Nations devoted to the study of the state and behavior of the Earth's atmosphere and its interaction with the oceans and the climate it produces and the resulting distribution of water resources on Earth. In 1988, the WMO established the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC. So that's the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, of which the United States is a part, which issues reports every 5 or 6 years on the state of scientific understanding of climate change. The last report they did was issued in 2014, and about that there will be more later toward the end of this whole project. Articles on climate change now occur in many journals, and the research into climate change researches and links together many fields. There has been a scientific consensus since 1995, or 20 years, that human activity, primarily in the form of spewing waste products from industrial processes into the atmosphere, is contributing to the warming of the Earth, which in turn is affecting the climate. This is the end of Part 5. We'll resume with a screencast in Part 6.